What's up, and welcome to this episode of the Reniverse. My name is Ren, and in this episode we're going to be taking a look at the newest addition to my collection. He's the JoyToy Warhammer 40k Death Guard Deathshroud Terminator Champion. Now, that's a mouthful, but this guy's more than just a pretty face. I was pretty excited when I saw that JoyToy was going to be doing 1/18th scale Plague Marines. I looked around at a couple different places online, and I finally decided on purchasing this guy from a website called the LT Cave. The LT Cave is a retailer out of China where you can order collectibles. It's one of the places that I will pick up JoyToy action figures from. And right now they have the Death Guard Deathshroud Terminator on their website available for $65.99, which is 18% off of the retail price of $79.99. And a good thing about LT Cave is that they have free shipping. So I ordered this guy from their website back in November, and he shipped on December 14th and was on my doorstep on December 27th. I'm not sponsored by LT Cave, but I've ordered a few figures from them and had nothing but positive experiences. Think about them if you're looking for JoyToy or any other import collectibles. Some background and lore about the Death Guard. The Death Guard are a traitor Space Marine Legion in the Warhammer 40k universe, known as Nurgle's chosen champions who revel in disease, decay, and despair. Originally the resilient 14th Legion, they fell to chaos during the Horus Heresy, becoming Plague Marines, whose rotting bodies are hosts to every plague, making them nigh unstoppable, shambling engines of pestilence dedicated to spreading their gods' gifts across the galaxy. Now, the Deathshroud Terminator Champion is the leader of a squad of Moritarians, elite silent bodyguards, and emissaries. They are veteran Death Guard legionnaires, selected for their extreme resilience and bravery, whose identities are stripped away and known only to their Primarch himself. Now that we know a little bit about his backstory, let's take a look at the Deathshroud Terminator Champion up close and personal. First off, let's take a look at the packaging. On the front, we've got premium box art with the terrifying visage of the Deathshroud Terminator Champion. We can see a polluted background and a scaled back image of someone dead. On the sides, we see the same scaled back imagery, and on the other side, we've got some information about the figure. And on the back, we can see some different product shots and different angles of the Deathshroud Terminator Champion in all of his glory. The packaging is made out of a sturdy cardboard with a nice matte finish, making it aesthetically pleasing and also suitable for collectors who keep their figures in box. I personally collect my figures loose, so I think it's about time that we break this guy out of his packaging. So, out of the box, my first impression of him is that he's immediately striking and has a bulkier presence than your typical 1/18th scale action figure. The paint and the details of this guy jump out even before you get a chance to handle him. He looks like he has some weight and some heft to him, and he just has that premium action figure look. Next, we're going to take a look at what comes inside of the box and the accessory that comes with the action figure. First off, we have the Deathshroud Terminator Champion himself, and he comes with one weapon. The standout of the accessories to me is the scythe, and this scythe looks like it's seen its fair share of blood and battle. We can see that the handle has a metal ring on the end. It has been wrapped in a yellowish, gross looking tape, a wooden main shaft, and the bulk of the weapon looks like a thick handmade metal. I like the accessory of the gas mask face guy on the base, and I really like the detail that we can find in the scythe's blade with the little ripper edges and the pock marks. These weird pit marks that look like there was probably an acid or something that oozed out of an enemy or oozed out of another one of Nurgle's minions to melt away the metal. He also comes with a set of Nurgle's bells. On the handle, we've got 3 bells that hang from a wooden support and are connected to a chain link. This accessory is pretty cool. I don't really know what you could use it for. Maybe he can carry it. I don't think it hooks onto anything on him, but I just like it because it just gives it another layer of depth to the character. I don't know if you can see this, but if you look really close, there's a maggot crawling along one of the bells. That's pretty cool. The head is actually a nice little surprise. I didn't think he came with an extra head, but here's a corrupted Space Marine and it looks like his face is melting away. And he comes with 2 sets of hands, a pair of fist hands and a pair of open hands, where the right hand is a closed hand and the left hand is a trigger hand, which is the opposite of the hands that are attached to the figure. He also comes with a standard JoyToy display stand. Everything feels well molded and purposefully designed. Let's take a closer look at the detail. This figure's got incredible surface detail. You can see a lot in the sculpt. You could tell that his armor has been corroded and worn away after years of not being kept up. That at one point it was probably an amazing Space Marine armor, but now it just looks a sickly green. And the surface of the armor is covered in pock marks and corrosion. We can see accents of the plague all over the armor. I can't tell if this is smoke or I think it's smoke coming out of these ports, or maybe it looks like it's a sick fungus growth with little flies on them. It's pretty cool. He's got a rubber worn cape. The cables that are attached to him are worn through, and we can see the mutations visibly all over his body. The part that stood out to me the most was the mouth that was on his stomach. It's got a really cool tongue sticking out of it. We can see, looks like his insides are coming out. We can see some growth breaking through the armor. I like the asymmetry of the design, where we've got this really big horn growing out of his shoulder, and that repeated asymmetry in the helmet. And if we look really close, we can see maggots crawling all over the front of his armor. And it looks like he has arm-mounted weapons. Overall, the sculpt is authentic to the Warhammer 40k aesthetic and very faithful to the tabletop models. This figure's got a lot of dynamic pose potential. I like the proportions, and the anatomy looks great for a Terminator-sized action figure. There's lots of tiny sculpted details to pay attention to all over the sculpt. The paint apps look hand-applied and premium. The character is painted in muted greens, rusty browns, and bone tones that totally fit the Death Guard decay theme. The weathering effects look deliberate and not sloppy, and there's some really nice shading that enhances the grime and battle-worn surfaces. If we look really close at the figure, we don't see a wash over it to bring out those details, but it actually looks like it's been hand-painted and airbrushed to where we can see browns and rust on the edges. Just looks great. Let's take a look at the figure's articulation. The figure is surprisingly flexible for such a bulky figure, but there are some movement limitations because of the sculpt and the design of his armor. First, we're going to take a look at his head. His head is on a ball joint. There's some movement left and right and limited movement up and down because of the design of that Terminator chassis. There is some really good movement in the arms. The shoulders don't really move up because of the shoulder armor, but we do get a nice good 360 rotation of the shoulders in both arms. I thought that the arms were going to be limited in articulation because of the cables that are attached, but the cables are attached on both sides on the arms. He's got a ball joint at the shoulder and a ball joint at the wrist. There is a little bit of waist articulation. It's on a ball, but because of the detail in the sculpt kind of limits what that movement is going to be in his waist. It's kind of a shame. And his legs have really good articulation. We've got a ball at the hip, ball at the knee, a ball at the ankle, and a toe hinge, which is nice. Looks like he can kick about that far forward, not too far forward because of the stomach detail. He can kick back pretty far, and his legs don't really go out too far, so he can't do a full split. You can get a really wide stance, which is kind of cool, and then get a good stretch of the legs because of the toe hinge. Let's get him into a action pose. There we go. Let's just put Nurgle's bells into his left hand there. So there is some restricted movement due to the design of the armor, but he's still really satisfying to pose. The figure feels large next to an average 1/18 scale action figure and has a truly imposing shelf presence. His towering structure and chunky silhouette make him stand out and is definitely worth a dedicated spot on the shelf. When you put him next to some other 1/18 scale action figures, he's not going to be easy to overlook. Now, onto some 1/18 size comparisons. First, let's compare him to a standard 1/18 scale JoyToy human action figure, and we'll compare him to one of the new secret level Titus figures. And I wanted to take a look at some other figures that might be related to his plague genre. So I'm going to bring in a JoyToy zombie from the Life After Infected line. Here's a Flood tank form action figure from the World of Halo line. And here are some of those little Flood minion guys. The last figure that I wanted to bring in is the Mythic Legion's Poxus, who is a 6-inch scale action figure, but scales really nicely as a god or deity in the 1/18th world building scale. Now, onto my overall impression. Do I like the Deathshroud Terminator Champion? In a word, yes. I think if you're into Warhammer 40k and you collect action figures, or if you're into the Death Guard, maybe you're looking to adding some plague or infection type villains to your collection, then the Deathshroud Terminator Champion makes a good addition to your world building 1/18th scale action figure collection. The excellent sculpt and paintwork make it feel worth owning. The articulation is very good considering the bulky armor, and he's still pretty fun to pose. He has a strong shelf presence and can be a desirable centerpiece for any collection. I do have some minor gripes. I feel like the armor can restrict some of his more extreme posing. He's pretty expensive. The price can be pretty high compared to other more simpler 1/18th scale figures, but I feel like there's a lot of value in that price. It's pretty on par with some of the more boutique brand action figures, but he is pretty pricey. And there's a lot of really small details all over the sculpt of the action figure, and I feel like if he were to be dropped, there's a possibility that some pieces could break off or some parts might go missing. Maybe the flies or any of the smaller chainmail details. But the plastic is pretty flexible, so it feels like a really durable figure. Overall, the JoyToy Death Guard Deathshroud Terminator Champion delivers on detail, presence, and collectible quality. It feels like a figure worthy of the grim darkness of the far future, and it's a must-have for any serious Warhammer 40k fan and 1/18th scale collector. Now, where does this action figure fit in my universe? Here is the story of the Death Guard in the Reniverse lore. The Death Guard belonged to an army created by the chaos deity Poxus, god of plague and pestilence. Poxus invaded their universe where they were once valiant soldiers of a powerful and benevolent space empire. Poxus proceeded to conquer them by spreading his mutating plague among their ranks until every last warrior was turned into a putrid and pulsating tentacled behemoth. Now, the Death Guard march with the swarms of plague spreaders, increasing their numbers by infecting other multiversal realms, so that they may bring death and decay to the forces of order and light. I genuinely want to thank you for watching and spending your time with me. If you found this review helpful or entertaining, consider leaving a like, subscribe for more action figure related content, and drop me your thoughts on this guy or anything you want to see in future videos in the comments below. Your support truly means a lot, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.